It is 1:33 on the morning of October 14th, 1942. The island is dark. The sea beyond it is darker. The first shell arrives before the sound does. Then the sound arrives, a pressure wave that moves through the chest before it reaches the ears, and the world comes apart. They are firing from 16,000 meters. 2 battleships in the Black Pacific, invisible from shore, identifiable only by the rhythm of their muzzle flashes. Great orange blooms hanging in the dark for a fraction of a second, then gone, then blooming again. The shells take nearly a minute to travel. They fall nearly vertical. When they hit the coral, they do not make a single sound. They make a continuous sound. 90 aircraft are parked on the field. Aviation fuel is stored in drums along the taxiway. The runway is coral gravel and dirt, 3,500 feet long. The men dug their foxholes before dark, and the rain has been filling them ever since. There is nothing to do but lie in the water and wait. Over the next 83 minutes, battleships Congo and Haruna fire 973 14-inch shells into the Lunga perimeter. 48 of 90 aircraft are destroyed. The fuel drums detonate in columns of orange fire. The wrecked planes burn wingtip to wingtip in the dark. 41 men are killed. The survivors will not call it the bombardment. They will not call it the battleship attack. They will call it simply the night. Every man who was there will know exactly what that means for the rest of his life. Did it work? 8 weeks earlier, August 6th, 1942. 2,500 Japanese construction workers are receiving an extra sack ration. They have finished the airfield at Lunga Point ahead of schedule, and their commanding officers want them to know it. The men are celebrating. They have earned it. The 2 major construction units on the island were originally assigned to Midway. Redirected after the Battle of Midway in June 1942, went catastrophically wrong. What they build instead is this: an airfield on an island the Allies call Guadalcanal, at a point the Japanese call Lunga, surveyed by Japanese engineers, constructed by Japanese labor, 3,500 feet of coral gravel cut into the jungle. The Japanese understand exactly what they have built. The Solomon Islands chain runs southeast from New Britain like a broken spine, and at its far end, Guadalcanal sits between Japan's Pacific Empire and the supply routes connecting the United States to Australia. An airfield here controls the southern Solomons, watches the shipping lanes, anchors the entire defensive perimeter Japan needs to hold. The construction workers are not celebrating a runway. They are celebrating a knife pointed at the throat of everything the Allies are trying to keep alive in the Pacific. American ships are already at sea. On August 7th, 6,000 Marines of Major General Alexander Van de Grift's 1st Marine Division close on the island. The landings are total surprise. Most of the Japanese garrison, Korean laborers largely, flee when the naval bombardment begins. The garrison's fighting men disappear into the jungle. They will be back. The airfield falls in 36 hours. The Americans name it Henderson Field, for Major Lofton Henderson of the Marine Corps, a dive bomber squadron commander killed at Midway while leading his men against Japanese carriers. He was the first Marine aviator to die in that battle. He never saw Guadalcanal. The same battle that killed him redirected the construction workers who built the field that now carries his name. The irony is quiet here at the beginning. It grows louder with every passing week. On August 20th, the first aircraft land. 19 Grumman F-4F Wildcat fighters and 12 Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bombers launched from an escort carrier in uncertain weather and flown onto a coral strip deep in contested ocean. They become the Cactus Air Force. What they inherit is a runway surrounded by heat that cracks tools and humidity that ruins everything, with no adequate food, no reliable fuel supply, and malaria already moving through the camp. The pilots fly on empty stomachs. They siphon fuel from drums by hand. They take off on a runway that Japanese bombs hit the night before and will hit again tonight. They hold the sky. but only in daylight. After dark, the sea belongs to Japan. Now comes October 14th. The Japanese have been running troops and supplies down the slot every night. Destroyers out of Rabaul, in and gone before dawn, a rhythm the Americans have named the Tokyo Express. On the night of October 11th, a cruiser-destroyer force intercepts one such run at Cape Esperance and scores a modest victory. The Americans are cautiously optimistic. Then Yamamoto moves. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, commanding the combined fleet from Truk, authorizes something larger than a supply run. He sends Kongo and Haruna, Kongo-class capital ships more than 31,000 tons each, 8 14-inch guns apiece, to clear the way for a decisive ground offensive. Smash the planes, burn the fuel, let the infantry advance without the Cactus Air Force shredding everything that moves in daylight. The ships reach Guadalcanal at 1:33, 83 minutes, 973 shells, 48 aircraft destroyed, almost all the aviation fuel burning. The 2 runways cratered, wrecked planes lined wingtip to wingtip in the hope that Japanese reconnaissance will not distinguish broken aircraft from intact ones. It is the most intense single bombardment American forces have ever endured, and in the morning Japan's planners run their calculations and reach a reasonable conclusion. The field is finished. 1 runway is operational by dawn. Transport aircraft are already flying aviation fuel up from Espiritu Santo, 500 miles south. Dive bombers and fighters are launched from that base toward Henderson within hours. By the time Japan's command has turned from congratulating Kurita's captains to issuing orders for the ground offensive, the Cactus Air Force is airborne. The field is not finished. Japan has built its next catastrophe on the assumption that it is. October 26th. 90 miles north of Guadalcanal, the largest carrier engagement since Midway begins. Vice Admiral Kondo commands a force built around 4 fleet carriers and 4 battleships. Halsey, who has just assumed command of the South Pacific Theater, sends his task force commanders a dispatch that needs no elaboration. Attack. Repeat. Attack. When the exchange of carrier strikes is over, Hornet is sinking and Enterprise is damaged. Japan holds the sky above the South Pacific. The survivor aircraft from both American carriers find their way to Henderson Field. The strip is crowded, half-wrecked, its personnel exhausted and fever-ridden. It is the most vulnerable Henderson has been since August. Japan does not bombard it. Had Japan sent ships to hit the field in the hours after Santa Cruz, there would have been almost nothing to oppose them. The window was open. Japan did not take it. The following weeks will show exactly what that choice cost. Japan's ground offensive has been building since August. 20,000 troops on Guadalcanal, concentrated for an assault on Henderson from the south, where the jungle is thickest and the wire is thinnest. Lieutenant General Harukichi Hayakutake directs the operation from Rabaul. The plan is meticulous on paper, 2 attacking columns, coordinated timing, the Sendai Division as the hammer. The jungle is not a map. The march to the jump-off takes weeks instead of days. Japanese soldiers hack through virgin jungle with machetes, hauling artillery and ammunition by hand through terrain that soaks everything and turns every trail to sucking mud. When the assault date arrives, October 23rd, the columns are late and ragged and out of coordination with each other. Then the tanks go. A postponement order is issued. A staff officer cannot reach Colonel Nakaguma in time to relay it. So at dusk on the 23rd, 2 battalions of Japanese infantry and the 9 tanks of the 1st Independent Tank Company attack the Marine positions at the Matanikau River mouth. A day early, alone, unsupported. Marine 37mm anti-tank guns destroy all 9 tanks in minutes. Japan's entire armored element on Guadalcanal is wrecked before the main battle begins. Van de Grift is not on the island. He has flown to Noumea for a conference with Halsey. His deputy holds the perimeter. The man on the south line, The line the Sendai Division is coming for is Lieutenant Colonel Lewis B. Puller, commanding the 1st Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment. Puller has been fighting in jungles for 20 years. Haiti, Nicaragua, more than 40 engagements in the Banana Wars, 2 Navy Crosses already filed. He is stocky and barrel-chested, jaw thrust, forward like a man walking into a headwind. He walks his line. He knows every position, every foxhole, every gun. He is 39 years old and has spent 2 decades preparing for a night like this one. At 9:30 on the night of October 24th, a telephone rings at Puller's command post. It is Sergeant Briggs on an outpost in the jungle. "Colonel, there's about 3,000 Japs between you and me." Puller asks if he's certain. "Positive. They've been all around us, singing and smoking cigarettes, heading your way." The rain is already falling hard. The kind of rain that reduces visibility to 5 feet, that turns sound into a continuous rushing wall of static, that fills foxholes to the knee and soaks every cartridge in its pouch. The Sendai Division is moving through that rain toward the wire. Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone is 25 years old, from Raritan, New Jersey, by way of the Philippines, where he boxed well enough to earn a ring name. Manila John. He re-enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1940. Tonight he commands 2 sections of heavy, water-cooled .30 caliber M1917 A1 machine guns dug into the southern perimeter of Henderson Field. The attack comes just after midnight. 3,000 Japanese soldiers surge out of the rain and jungle again and again, hitting the line in waves. Basilone's guns are what they run into. For a time, the guns hold. Then one section goes silent, ammunition exhausted, the crew down. Basilone picks up the 90-pound machine gun and its tripod. He carries them 200 yards through the dark and the rain and the Japanese soldiers already inside the perimeter to the silenced position. He sets up. He opens fire, point blank into the mass of men coming through the wire. The ammunition runs out. The supply lines behind the position have been cut. Japanese soldiers in the rear, between Basilone and the ammunition point. He goes through them on foot with a pistol. Both ways. He comes back with ammunition. He keeps firing. When the last of it is gone in the final minutes before dawn, he holds the position with a pistol and a machete. When the light comes, 38 bodies are lying around the gun John Basilone personally manned. Puller's line holds. 70 Americans are dead or wounded. More than 1,400 Japanese soldiers lie in front of the wire. The airfield is behind them, intact. Just over the horizon to the north, as those men are bleeding in the mud, the last great carrier battle of 1942 is already beginning. Santa Cruz and the Sendai Division happening simultaneously, the campaign's 2 fists swinging at once. Japan wins the carrier battle. It is not enough, and it is already too late. The day after, Puller is brought a prisoner taken alive at the wire. He asks him directly, why, when the attacks were failing, didn't his commanders shift to a weaker point? The prisoner's answer is brief and without apology. The plan had been made. No one would have dared to change it. He pauses. It must go as it is written. Japan plans again. November now, bigger than October, more coordinated. 11 transports, 10,000 soldiers, their artillery and ammunition and food. Covering them, the battleships Haie and Kirishima, loaded with special fragmentation and high-explosive shells designed to crater runways and destroy aircraft on the ground. The mission is Henderson Field. Bombard it on the night of November 12th into the 13th. Destroy what is left. Let the convoy land in daylight, unopposed. The ammunition loaded into those guns cannot penetrate armor plate. The shells have impact fuses, designed for coral and parked aircraft, not for the hull of a capital ship. Kondo's fleet is armed for an airfield. That is the mission. That is what the shells are for. On the night of November 12th, Rear Admiral Daniel Callahan takes what he has: 2 heavy cruisers, 3 light cruisers, 8 destroyers, and drives it directly at Admiral Abe's force in the pitch black of Iron Bottom Sound. No battleships, no air cover. Callahan is not going to win this engagement. What he is going to do is get in the way. Radar contact comes at 1:24. Callahan's order goes out through broken communications to ships improperly positioned. Odd ships fire to starboard, even ships fire to port. What follows is not a battle in any organized sense. It is a melee at point-blank range, in complete darkness, forces so intermingled that ships on both sides hold fire to avoid hitting their own. It lasts barely a quarter of an hour. When it is over, Callahan is dead. So is Rear Admiral Norman Scott, who came to Guadalcanal after winning Cape Esperance. They are the only 2 American admirals killed in surface combat in the entire war. Most of Callahan's force is wrecked, and Admiral Abe, rattled by the chaos, the proximity of American ships in the dark, the damage to his battleship High-AI, turns his force around without bombarding Henderson Field. The sun rises. Henderson's aircraft find High-AI limping northward. The Emperor's favorite battleship goes down under their bombs and torpedoes before afternoon. Yamamoto is furious. Abe is relieved of command and retired. The second day, November 14th, belongs to Henderson Field. All day, Marine and Navy aircraft from the battered strip pound the Japanese convoy moving down the slot. The same field Japan has been trying to destroy for 3 months sends aircraft up again and again across every hour of available daylight. Heavy cruiser Kinugasa is sunk. 7 of 11 transports are destroyed or crippled before darkness falls. 4 ships are still running south as night comes on. That afternoon, a Japanese reconnaissance pilot overflies Task Force 64 steaming northward and radios his report to the fleet. He identifies the 2 large American warships below him as cruisers. They are not cruisers. They are USS Washington and USS South Dakota, the first American battleships committed to night surface action in the entire Pacific War. Kondo is planning for cruisers. He's already loaded for an airfield. Now he is heading into the wrong fight entirely, and he does not know it. Yamamoto orders Kondo in with Kirishima and the Second Fleet. Halsey has almost nothing left. He gives what he has to Rear Admiral Willis A. Lee and sends them north. Lee is not the kind of admiral who appears in newspapers. He is tall, lean, bespectacled, known in the fleet as Ching. He won an Olympic gold medal in shooting at the 1920 Antwerp Games and has spent the intervening 2 decades turning long-range gunnery into a discipline. He is the Navy's foremost practitioner of radar-directed fire control. This night is his examination. "Well, stand by, Glenn," Lee tells his flag lieutenant as the radar plots gather on the screens around them. Here they come. The 4 American destroyers engage Kondo's screening force first. They are overwhelmed. They buy time and they pay for it. Then South Dakota's electrical systems fail. Power goes, comes back, goes again. Sailing half-blind, she is caught in Japanese searchlights and takes 26 hits, including at least one 14-inch shell. Her superstructure burns. She retires. Washington and Lee are alone. Kondo's ships are firing their bombardment shells, impact fuses, designed for coral runways and parked aircraft. Against the belt armor of an American battleship, they flash and spark and damage what is exposed, but they cannot reach the vitals of a ship built to fight other ships. The shells Kondo loaded for Henderson Field are the only shells he has, and they are the wrong shells, and he cannot change them now. Washington's guns are loaded with armor-piercing rounds, 2,700-pound projectiles, case-hardened, designed to punch through deck plating and detonate inside a hull. Lee opens fire in the dark, directed by radar, walking his salvos onto Kirishima in measured increments. between 9 and 20 hits by 16-inch shells, more than 40 by 5-inch guns, several of the great rounds striking short of the waterline and driving in flat trajectories beneath the surface to hit below the armor belt. Kirishima, flooding in multiple compartments, falls silent. At midnight, a searchlight on the Japanese cruiser Atago finds South Dakota and holds her. Admiral Kondo studies the silhouette. He has been receiving fragmentary reports for over an hour, suggesting American battleships are in the Sound. He has been dismissing them. He is not dismissing them now. Kondo finally understands he is facing battleships. He has been firing the wrong shells all night. His reconnaissance pilot told him they were cruisers. He is in Iron Bottom Sound with a mission to bombard a runway, and the runway is still standing and Washington is still out there in the dark. Finding him by radar, he cannot match and cannot answer. Kondo withdraws. Kirishima is scuttled at dawn. Japan's second battleship in 3 days. The bombardment of Henderson Field is never completed. 4 Japanese transports beach themselves on Guadalcanal at 4 in the morning on November 15th. It is the last thing they can do. They have run through everything the campaign could throw at them, and this is what survives. At dawn, aircraft from Henderson Field arrive and finish the work. Of 10,000 soldiers planned for the reinforcement, 2,000 reach the island. They have almost no ammunition, almost no food, and no heavy equipment. The supply chain that was supposed to sustain them is at the bottom of Iron Bottom Sound. The ledger of the naval battle of Guadalcanal. Japan lost 2 battleships, 1 heavy cruiser, 3 destroyers, 11 transports, 64 aircraft. The United States lost 2 light cruisers, 4 destroyers, 35 aircraft. It was the last major Japanese attempt to retake the island or control the waters around it. In December 1942, Japan's High Command conceded the campaign. By February 7, 1943, the last Japanese soldiers had been evacuated. 6 months of fighting, 3 major land battles, 7 naval engagements, daily aerial combat. And in the end, it came down to a coral strip 3,500 feet long. Rear Admiral Abe was relieved and retired. He paid for Hiei with his career. Vice Admiral Kondo kept his command and remained at Truk. No official explanation was offered for the difference. Chesty Puller survived. Korea came, and with it, the chosen reservoir, a different cold hell on a different continent, and his 5th Navy Cross. He retired as a lieutenant general. He is the most decorated Marine in the history of the United States. John Basilone went home in the summer of 1943 to parades and speeches and his face on posters. He walked through all of it and asked to go back. The Corps refused. They offered a commission. They offered a safe posting stateside. He refused both. Eventually, the Corps relented. He went back in February 1945 with the 27th Marine Regiment to an island called Iwo Jima. It was the first day of combat. February 19th. He was on the beach when the shrapnel found him. He was 28 years old. The Marine Corps awarded him the Navy Cross for his actions that morning, which, combined with the Medal of Honor he already held, made him the only United States Marine so decorated in the entire war. The Corps sent John Basilone home because he was too valuable to lose. It didn't work. Henderson Field is still there. Commercial designation, Honiara International Airport, capital of the Solomon Islands. Passengers land on it most days. They walk through the terminal. They collect their bags. The coral beneath the runway does not explain itself. A prisoner once said it all, in a few quiet words, to a stocky lieutenant colonel standing in a ruined jungle at dawn. It must go as it is written.